Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
Hi, my name is Sam Singewald, but also Lego History of Sam on Instagram and YouTube. And today we have my fleet of military warships from 1777 to the 1980s.
This is a great layout here, and I love how you've done this because you kind of put it in chronological order. So if you start from the back here, you've got some of the tall ships, the sailing ships, all the way to much more recent. So why don't you start with the back and tell us what you brought here?
Okay, sure. We have USS Constitution right there. She was in the American Revolutionary War. She was also in the Civil War, and she's still around today. You can go see her, and she's actually fighting right now against the what was it called? The ship in the bottle set, and just bombarding it. The mast has gone down, and it's just destroying her like good old Einstein usually does.
I like the epic battle with the ship in the bottle ship there. I don't think I've seen anyone set that up that way.
Oh no, not a lot of people do, but the cone pieces really came in handy. I removed stuff from the ship, from ship and bottle, and put it on Constitution, and yeah, it turned out pretty dang good.
So what's up next then?
So up next, we got Spanish-American War vessels. We have the USS Erickson, the small torpedo boat that is very light gray. She was the only ship that was built in Iowa, in Dubuque, Iowa, from Iowa's Iron Works. She was in the Battle of Santiago de Cuba with the bigger ship in the back, USS Iowa BB-4. Beautiful ship. She sunk 4 Spanish cruisers during the battle, and just amazing history with her. She also was in World War I. Sadly was scrapped as a target ship in 1922, but a lot of history with her and her predecessor all the way up forward. And then up next we have USS Minnesota. She BB-22. She will be at the Bricks and Minifigures store in Apple Valley. She will be displayed there permanently, and if any guys want to come out to the grand opening, it is on July 13th of this year. You better stop by and say hi to those guys. And she's a beautiful ship. She's not done quite right, but I love this because people see like different colors of the stacks and also the gun mounts, and like the gun mounts actually move. Like here. So the main battery guns go like this. It turns around, it goes up and down, and also the secondary batteries also move, and then second main batteries also move. I try to get that with all my ships, and like you have that functionality, so it's something different every year.
What are some of the challenges or differences with building kind of this era of ship versus some of the newer things that you have down here?
Well, the different eras of ships is a pre-dreadnought. But I can call them battleships because that's what they named them at the time. Because the hull is like the hardest part. You have to have that slight angle, but also have that like section of the ship in the bow, and like get that perfectly. It's really difficult, but I really made it work, and it looks pretty dang good to me. So
then where do we move from there?
So we move from here. We have the World War I era / World War II with USS, I forgot what her name is. What was it? Dang, I forgot her name. But that one right there, she sunk in World War II. Reuben James, that's what her name is, by a German torpedo in 1941. One of the first destroyers to be sunk by the Germans with the U.S. Navy. She is very interesting, and her history is also. And right next to her, that submarine is also from World War II. So we're getting more into the World War II era. She sunk a bunch of Japanese ships and actually invaded the Japanese homeland in 1945. Blew up a train on the way to town, and the town, like, anti-aircraft was going up. They thought it was an air raid, but she was in the Italian Navy, and then after that she was scrapped, sadly. Then next to it is Pillsbury, U-505. I brought that last year, and the cool thing about Pillsbury and some of my other destroyers over here, they have dip charges. Dip charges behind the ship, and it's exploding. It's detonating. It's trying to sink the submarines or badly damage it. That's how she captured U-505. That's right next to her. She's an awesome ship, really cool history. She's one of the first destroyer escorts I made. So yeah. And after that, we have my LST 325. This year's different. I actually added a bunch of tanks and trucks. I have a bunch of tanks inside of her, CCKWs, and like a Brickmania Vault kit that I got. And it looks pretty dang good. Well, this year's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and so I have to represent the Navy in that some way, shape, or form. And then right next to her is a actual Higgins boat kit that Dan made a long time ago. I just packed her full of soldiers and get them on the beach. So then someone gave me that one for just to have for today. It's a landing craft that you can put two Jeeps or one Sherman. Sherman kind of like overlogs it, so water sometimes comes in actual history, but I think it looks pretty good with the rest of my ships. And then we have over here USS DeLong. She's a low destroyer escort. She really helped me a lot with getting that era of destroyer escorts. And for Pillsbury, she has two guns, if you go back in the video. But this one, she has two 5-inch 38 guns, one in the bow, one in the stern, one torpedo, tube, and everything else. That really helped me with my next ship that I did afterwards was USS Sam B. Roberts. But next ship after her is the USS Laffey, DD-724. My great-grandfather served on her during Korea. She's the first ship that I actually made. This is in her 1945 configuration. She was like this also in D-Day. She bombarded the beaches with Battleship Texas. And yeah, she is a beautiful ship. She's a good passion of mine. And I still think she's one of my best ships I've ever done.
Now, the Laffey is a museum ship that you can visit today, right?
Yeah, she's a museum ship in Charleston, South Carolina. I got to see her a couple times with my great-grandfather. You can see in the photos. But yeah, it's a beautiful ship. Highly recommend going down and seeing those guys. It's right next to a carrier, USS Yorktown, CV-10. So
fantastic. And that brings us, I think, to your largest model on display here.
Yeah, I have more models on the right behind her, but this is one that I really am amazing. It's really amazing, and I can't believe I did it. It's the USS Iowa BB-61. She's in California as a museum ship. She basically served from World War II, helped FDR go over to a conference, and after that she went to the Pacific Theater, and then she was decommissioned in 45. Then she was commissioned again in the 1950s, and then decommissioned again after Korea. Then recommissioned in the 80s and decommissioned in 1989. But she's the biggest ship. She's about 7 feet long. She has all of her guns move, and everything looks amazing. She has an American flag flying on the stern, all those 20, 40s, and 50s anti-aircraft guns, and the 16-inch guns, and the one in the stern and two in the back. It blows me away how big these ships are in this scale.
It looks fantastic, the way you've done the deck, and then just all the small little detailed and gun mounts there, I think really kind of bring it to life.
Oh yeah, like you don't know how big these ships are until you like go to them or see this is what this is what that is. Because those 20 millimeter anti-aircraft guns, those little minifigure hand anti-aircraft guns are just so big in real life. And same with the 40 millimeters, those ones with the two clips, and then like the 5-inch guns, the 5 of them, 5 on one side, 5 on the other side, so about 10 of those guns. So yeah.
So as we round the corner then to this side, what do you have right here as we head back down the line?
So we start off here. I have a Dauntless dive bomber given to me by Nate, Sergeant Nate on Instagram. Amazing model. I love it. He just let me have it because, hey, I'm the Navy guy after all. Then over here we got my CBs / tanks and everything. We got the 40 millimeter Bofors right there, and a cool Brickmania kit of the 20 millimeters. That one came from the USS Samar B. Roberts. and that one is also the one that has minifigure hands as the anti-aircraft guns, and those are like pretty big if you see for a minifigure. So we got another sailor right there defending the Japanese, defending from the Japanese at Pearl Harbor. Really amazing story about him. He's an amazing guy. Then we have other CBs everywhere. We got the Jeeps, the CCKWs, and a Marine Corps tank right behind them. And so, yeah, that's a really amazing stuff. Just have minifigure style stuff. And also we got Spanish-American War with the cannon that actually is on Iowa. It's a little black piece on Iowa. So she actually had two of those BB4 had. So yeah, as we keep moving forward here, we have USS The Sullivans, DD-537, with amazing stickers on the bow and the stern from Brickmania. Highly recommend getting those. She was named after the 5 Sullivan brothers from Waterloo, Iowa. That was on the Juno. This is her 1958, not 58 to 59 configuration. She's still around. She's in Buffalo Naval Military Park. Everything moves on her, and she is an upgraded version than the Fletcher that we're going to see here soon. Then we got another submarine, USS Clamagore. She was the only one of her kind in her Guppy 3 configuration. She's no longer with us. She was scrapped in 2022. I was fortunate to see her, and I try to get a little minifigure hand on almost all my ships. So you see on the periscopes, there's one little minifigure hand right there on the back. But she's all snot built like all my submarines, and it's really cool to get that curving and that shaping around her. It's not that hard to do, but a lot of people think it's a little bit difficult. Then we got good old Samuel B. Roberts. But soon this year is the 80th anniversary of the Battle off Samar, so I gotta have a representation of the battle. Dan made a big one right behind me, but she is pretty good for this scale. She was not even a year old when she sank. Famous battle off Samar, charged the Japanese battleship Yamato and just bombarded her, and she sadly got hit by a lot of her 18-inch guns. But I had a representative of her there. Right behind her is an F4U Corsair that is also given to me by Sergeant Nate. Flying right behind her is a micro brick battle version of an F4U Corsair, the same scale as the rest of my ships. And yeah. Then right behind that is a Fletcher class destroyer. So the Sullivans is an upgraded version. This is what she would have looked like in 1943. So she still has her torpedo tubes and the 5-inch gun in the back. And that was the first Fletcher I made, because if I made the Laffey, I could make any destroyer in any scale I can. And she's literally Laffey's hull, but a little bit wider, a little bit skinnier. And she's actually dropping depth charges right now at the stern, but the superstructure is pretty good, and it's a really good ship. I love the design of it, and yeah. And right behind her is a little bit depth charging going on. We got a Japanese submarine that's trying to get the Iowa, trying to sink her, but we're not gonna let that happen. And then right diagonal from her is a ship, USS Hoga, that is the only ship that I have that was at Pearl Harbor, in Pearl Harbor. She helped USS Nevada get out and beach herself. And she's a museum ship now, too. So she's a little interesting ship. She's a smaller one of my fleet, but yeah. Then behind her and behind that is USS Juno, CL-52, the one that the 5 Sullivan brothers from Waterloo, Iowa was on. Sadly perished in the Battle of Guadalcanal in November 13th of 1942. She is my second ship I built. A little bit outdated, I gotta say so myself, but she's a leading pathway to my USS Iowa BB-61 and the rest of my fleet. Then after that, we're moving on to more World War I era. So this is USS Ward. She's the one that fired the first shot in World War II. You can see the guns opening firing right there between the two stacks. She's actually firing at the Japanese midget sub. That's what she did on the morning of December 7th, 1941, an hour before the attack. And then they radioed in to command saying, hey, we think we sunk a sub, but they didn't know. Later in the war, this year is the 80th anniversary of it, she got hit by a kamikaze and sadly was sunk. And there's a gun, the same gun that's opening firing, is still around. That was actually when she was being configured into a transport ship. That gun was donated to Minnesota, here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that was manned by the U.S. Minnesota National Guard, and they fired the first shots of World War II before Pearl Harbor happened. And you could see it happening right now against the Japanese midget submarine. I think they're just going to have a pretty dang good lucky shot at it. And there's also depth charges coming out of her stern. And then we have USS Bennett after her. She is in a dazzle camouflage that they would have had during World War I. She is really interesting because she's based after a propaganda poster. The propaganda poster is basically saying keep the sea lanes open from World War I, and it's just a cool shot of a destroyer going against a German U-boat and a cargo ship just going right past them. It's a cool shot, and I would recommend anyone to go to the National World War I Museum. That's where that poster is at right now. And then behind her is my dynamite gun cruiser from the Spanish-American War. She is the only one of her kind. She is an interesting ship. She has 16-inch guns going all the way through her deck. Interesting design on her is there's clip pieces on the bow. You can see where those guns are, and those don't move. The whole ship has to move to get those guns into sight. It was kind of hard for the crew to do that, but also it's kind of scary when you hear the shells. There's some Spanish that actually heard these shells coming at them, and they sound like, I don't know, something out of this world, they said. So yeah, that's the overview of my fleet.
How many ships do you have in total here?
Well, I have 22 ships here, and I have 30 ships total, but this is the majority of them that are completed. And yeah, it is an impressive fleet. Different eras, you can see different how stuff for the U.S. Navy changed over time between Iowa in 1898 and USS Iowa BB-61 from 1942. So, yeah.
Great work. Thank you so much for taking us through everything here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.